I'll assume since you've gotten this far, you have heard about glitch techs. It's an animated series that needs your help right now. Yes, you. The show was originally supposed to come out in 2018, but the show was delayed for 2019, then 2020. Not only that, but the show was moved to Netflix, and we learned this by accident. It was reported that the series was stalled, and crew members were being laid off. Even though we have received the first 10 episodes, there were 30 to be made, and that 20 are finished, meaning that only half of them have been publicly released. The creator has even come out and requested that people like you and myself spread the good word of glitch techs. That is your mission. That is what we must do together. Will you accept it? Yes, I will. I put this off for long enough. I want to talk about this show already, and I'm starting now. Also plug in my Discord.
What's a glitch tech?
Well, I'll tell you. We start off with essentially what glitch techs is about. A secret group of people specially trained to stop the dangerous glitches that happen in video games. In this world, glitches are more than a minor inconvenience. They can escape the machine in which they are inhabited in, and cause a lot of wreckage.
Oh, it's broken. What did you do?
I didn't do anything.
Mom! Now don't mom me. You can play more tomorrow. That game's not going anywhere.
We are Sword.
There's so much that I enjoy about this already. They take you directly into the action, showing you what you'll be seeing in the other 8 episodes. I say 8 because technically this is a 2-part special. The action in terms of pacing and wackiness alongside squatching and stretching reminds me of Rise of the TMNT, a very wacky and action-based show that isn't afraid to get silly. I love the halftone overlay on the Zoid monster. I've enjoyed it in Spider-Verse, and this is no different. I do think the slightly more choppy animation allows for this quick and cartoony way to move around characters and objects, relying heavily on anticipation. Look at the way when Zoid stops the dad, I think. He hops up in the air and drops. It's very sharp and not smooth, and I enjoy that sort of feeling. It happens in Gumball pretty regularly. However, that isn't to say that I have all good things to say about this beginning segment. I skipped directly to this portion of the exposition part because I don't want to confuse you the way that I was confused. The episode begins by showing you the team, glitch techs. However, the 2 main characters that you would see often in the series don't show up until after this, which would lead you to believe that Mitch Williams is a protagonist, especially considering the way that he saves the family.
Glitch contained.
Hinobi Game Systems apologizes for any inconvenience this minor glitch may have caused, and will now restore your system's memory.
What did I miss?
He's very well versed in his line of work, however. You'll see in later episodes that your perception of him is forced to be shifted multiple times. But even that tiny problem isn't enough to get me to stop praising the various aspects of this episode that I enjoy. I love the character design and how it feels very modern and completely away from Robal's other work on Nickelodeon, Fanboy and Chum Chum. While another show he did work on, The X's, would have some of the design choices that I would see here, such as focusing on sleek designs that work well in an action-oriented show. The reason why I lean more on the comparisons of Fanboy and Chum Chum beyond just being a really big fan of the show and more knowledgeable on how some of the traits were carried into here is because the show is still received pretty mixed. I see a lot of Fanboy and Chum Chum as far as a writing and comedic aspect here. While a completely different medium, things such as having tons of sound effects after the dialogue, or not being afraid to spin and twist the characters around for seemingly no reason, or sending the characters into their own world to communicate an idea to another character. These are not things that were developed originally for glitch techs. Not saying that these ideas are originally from Fanboy and Chum Chum either, but to me, as a fan of both works, I see this as the story-heavy version of that style that he would offer there, which was more of a comedic episodic version, because this does want to tell a story.
Just be sure to upload all glitches from your gauntlet when you get back to HQ this time.
Thanks for the strategy tip, boss. Like I need a walkthrough.
The episode slowly starts planting the seeds that Mitch isn't exactly who he says he is, and I feel like there were better ways to do that, especially given his limited appearances in the show, and thus lack of a significance in the story, so far. So we'd finally get to the main characters, Five and Miko. Starting off with Five, we'd learned that he works with his grandparents in a food truck that hasn't moved since before he was born. He received a bracelet that indicates that he's one of the top ranked gamers in town, and thus will be in an upcoming tournament, the Hinobi Smash Tournament, run by a local company that will be very important here. I appreciate that Five's rather insecure and shy nature is contrasted well with his comfort zone being his great skill in gaming. They show this well, with him beating a level for a group of kids outside the food truck, but I think this is one of my favorite Five-centric scenes of this episode, revolving around how his family treats gaming.
We looked online. Says only the best gamers in the city get these. Says first prize is a job at the Hinobi game store. I think you'd want an opportunity like that, yeah?
Of course I would, but the game's today and I gotta work.
That's not your problem. All you gotta do is play your heart out.
It's such a heartwarming moment, and I think I speak for many when I say it's just refreshing to see quite an older pair of parents be so supportive about video games, and someone getting an opportunity in something that isn't so conventional. We've seen the family that thinks that children shouldn't partake in so many video games, but it's a lot rare to see the family unit that supports that lifestyle. Not only that, but in the scenes with the first family, it just seems so casual, and if it weren't for a review, I don't think I'd even speak about this. It reminds me of how sometimes nowadays, you can see a same-sex couple and the show doesn't make a big deal out of it, and I think that helps so much with making it seem like a normal aspect. I think that's such a great way to handle this topic. Glitch Text handles video games in a way that makes it seem very casual and not a gimmick, and that makes me appreciate the show a lot more. Now let's toss all of that out of the window to talk about Miko.
What?
Mom says come to breakfast before you shake the house apart.
You can pull the plug on my TV, but you can't pull the plug on Destiny!
Miko, you're a hyperactive, optimistic, risk-taking Japanese-American co-main character whose lack of focus, goofy demeanor, and great voice direction has made her a fan favorite within the Glitch Text community. She's also a top-ranked gamer within her neck of the woods, and has been selected to compete in the Hinobi Smash Tournament, the same one that her parents do not see the value in and thus are nixing, even though she has planned this event days in advance.
We've got a full day ahead and won't have time to...
But you guys wouldn't even have to drive me there. I can just log into the game from home.
You spend enough time in front of the screen already, young lady. Now get changed, we have a lot of events today.
You're taking everyone else to do the stuff they like, but not me? That's not fair!
Especially because of the fact that it seems that other events were planned after hers, and she's getting the short end of the stick. That's brutal. Although this particular scene did remind me of one thing I can say about Miko that anyone can spot immediately. Miko's hair moves a lot. I don't know what a lot is as far as referencing other women or girls with long hair, but it's so noticeable in an almost distracting way. If I can spin it into a positive, her hair as well as her living conditions, and so much about her seems very attention-grabbing. Her hair is all over the place when she moves even slightly. The beginning scenes with her in the kitchen showed a very messy family. They're all over the place, and that has led Miko to be all over the place. Look at her outfit. Purple hair with yellow and blue with some black somewhere in there. It works, but it definitely is also all over the place, but in a way that the palette is aesthetically okay. She tricks the family, who don't seem to really speak to her but at her, in the sense of understanding her side of things, and they clearly don't approve of video games in a way that Five's folks do. Granted, Five has a job, so it's not a one-to-one situation. While Miko participates in a tournament from home, Five participates in a tournament in person.
This is amazing.
I agree, this does look amazing. Even though the game itself can be a little hard to explain, I do enjoy the art style and the atmosphere of the game itself. It kind of feels like a race, although there's placing an orb into a specific checkpoint aspect. There's also fighting within the game and clearly the sci-fi element, so it's taking a little bit from a lot of things. Five and Miko, or should I say Hi_5 and Me_KO, meet each other for the first time. And due to Mitch's dirty playstyle, due to an obsession over winning which has led to a giant ego So 5 is pushed into Miko, who are both pushed off the platform, but are not out. There are also other confusing aspects of the game, like for example, everyone jumps across the platform, we see that one person blatantly doesn't make it, and I can't really put my finger on exactly why. Does your weight need to count in a game like this? In fact, they took a lot of liberties in the logic of this. It seems that certain people get eliminated when they get hit with a ball, but there's this one character who can just bear hug you out of the game. We see that Miko has the game remotely and she's able to play, which is fine, but then she does things like flip over the couch or kick, like if it were some kind of Wii or Xbox Connect based game style, but it seems to function more like a VR headset alongside the appropriate controllers. You could write that off as a Miko way of playing, but 5's does it as well. It's not something I hate, I don't hate this at all, but I can't tell you that it didn't break my immersion somewhat thinking about exactly what she's doing, what 5's doing, and what the game is all about. But getting past that, there's tons of awesome things in here. The action, the animation, the sound direction, all of it is great, amazing, the graphics look awesome. We see Miko, Mitch, and 5 at their best here. 5 is very nervous and quite often in his own head, which can lead him to be pretty cautious. However, with his amazing skills, he holds his own well. Miko is in the zone and is very energetic but also friendly, which creates an official alliance between the two. Mitch is, well...
You're Mitch Williams!
And you're not.
Their alliance gets them to the final battle, a puzzle, which is kind of weird because to solve it, you have to pick the right platform, but the right choice changes, and you're also fighting and avoiding death. It just seems like there's way too much happening at once. The part that matters though is that while they help each other from Mitch Williams trying to knock them out, 5's ball that he uses in the game gets stuck, and the game glitches, so they do the unprecedented. Miko gives 5 her ball to win the game, which means that 5 wins, Miko wins, well, they both see it as winning. However, that glitch is a bigger problem than Mitch throwing a tantrum. We start to see here more than anywhere else that glitches happen often, however they manifest themselves out of their screens, which is a cool concept. But I think the cooler concept is the fact that they have to keep these aspects of gaming outside of the public's knowledge in a Men in Black-esque style, wiping the memories of anyone who notices. But here's the thing. I, for the life of me, cannot figure this out. I know the top comment of this video is gonna be, Jay, it's obvious, da 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 da, but I have asked a dozen people about why her memory can't be erased and why Mitch doesn't end up understanding that later, but no one seems to really have a solid answer. Maybe it could be because she was in the game, but 5 didn't get his memory wiped from the monitors, but I think it's because he was under the monitor so he wasn't seeing it. It can't be because she wasn't there, because 5's grandparents had their memories wiped, so you can tell you can have your memory wiped remotely. I guess it could be because she technically won, like they say later in the episode, but this episode has been telling me that Mitch is a top person in glitch techs. You're telling me that he's won multiple tournaments and is of the elite there, but he doesn't know that you can't wipe the memory of someone who wins the tournament? That's why I don't believe that. I've never been more confused about anything in animation ever. I am serious about that. This is not hyperbole. This is not hyperbole. I watched Little Panda Fighter. I should know what I mean when I say I've never been confused about anything in animation ever. In addition to wiping out 5's memory, Mitch takes off his ban, which is a very powerful moment within this show, because even if that is the protocol, you can tell that he also did it out of envy. This is where Mitch goes from the person who saves lives and who to root for to the person who must be stopped. He is an anti-hero in the sense that while his flaws push for people to perceive him in an arrogant light, he ultimately is of the side of good.
No joke, giant monster hand came through the plasma, grabbed me, threw me on the couch, and zoop, got sucked back into the TV. Next thing I know, the TV's all, don't move, and I was all, boom, wow! You believe me, don't you? Mom, please, it's not fair! You can't just take my console away!
I can and am, young lady. I hope ditching your family today was worth it.
Well, I mean, if I were to be fair here, they're not taking away your video games because you are lying. They're taking away your video games because you skipped out on their family day. In fact, their mother directly references that when it comes to taking away your video games. It seems like a miscommunication thing here that could have been easily fixed. We also get to see Miko's sister. I've seen that archetype a lot, not much to say about it in this episode at least. However, she does end up finding Five, quite conveniently I might add, and something about this has always been so unintentionally funny to me. She'd spent a lot of time trying to convince Five that they competed in the Hinobi Smash tournament, and it's a specific part that convinces Five to actually pay attention.
You were at that tournament, Five. You need to believe me.
Why? What does it even matter?
Because you won.
I know that this is supposed to be a semi-heavy moment because it changes the story and shifts the characters together and they try to make it all work and all, but it made Five look incredibly shifty to how he now believes her only because she said that he won. If she's still a crazy girl and it's still a crazy story, then she's a crazy girl and the story is still crazy. But the power of egos, I guess. By deducing that the food truck has moved, he's now suspicious and wants to investigate further. However, this raises even more questions that the show doesn't want to answer. Firstly, we saw that in the beginning of the episode, the memory wipe is able to fix broken furniture. However, I feel like the point that many people may fixate on is that that memory wipe was right there in the house. It was not a remote wipe. That was Mitch in the presence of a broken house, fixing everything. However, I would argue that considering that the glitch text is a serious business, it would only make sense to have the remote wipe fix everything. They knew they'd have remote players such as Miko. They knew that these glitches can phase out of the screen and destroy real life things. I'm not understanding why fixing things remotely won't be an option. In a meta story writing sense, because of the fact that memory wiping isn't a thing, I don't know. In a meta story writing sense, I think you would be able to write memory wiping any way that you want. They decide to spy on Mitch, but not before we see the Frosty Mart, and Miko says something almost prophetic.
Maybe I'm like the one, you know? Chosen by destiny to protect the innocent from trolls like him! Or not.
Considering the amount of Miko-centric episodes, I think this was a Freudian slip. So remember how I said that Mitch Williams is more of an anti-hero? Well, this episode loves to show me more about him, so we see that he commits a crime here. Yeah, he orders food, then erases the memory of the drive-thru person, and then takes the food without paying. Once again, character is all over the place, and I'm not sure how to feel about that. But I'm not the only one confused here. Mitch, who sees that Miko cannot be reset due to an error, is also confused here. Once again, this is just so confusing, and even after rewatching this multiple times, I don't understand this. This was not explained well here, and I believe this was not explained in a later episode as far as the stuff that is released. It very well could be that in a future episode, they properly and clearly explain this. Don't get me wrong, this is a great scene, having her tear down Mitch's character as he stands there in a puddle of pride and confusion trying to wipe her memory, but it's so confusing to the viewer and the people within the episode. I don't believe this is going to be explained later in this episode at least. I do enjoy, however, Five is slowly learning in the background the true character of Mitch, who has a great line.
I'll tell you who I am. I'm the guy who's gonna send you back to the alley you crawled from. And this time, you're gonna stay there, where you belong.
Wow, just amazing. I love the anger in his voice and the perceived superiority that he has, being nearly defeated by them once again. I love his vocabulary and the way that you can see from his face, he doesn't enjoy the fact that he has to put in actual effort on those whom he considers to be lower life forms. Everything about this scene is perfect. They try to set up this moment in which Miko and Five fight as Five truly starts to believe that Miko is crazy and makes his life worse, but I don't agree. If anything, Five has been consistently proved wrong in everything that he believed about Mitch. So the way that they set up this scene is actually pretty weird. However, we get to the big reveal.
Good thing you were never here,
I did beat Mitch Williams.
It is here that everything changes, and I can't do this justice. You guys are gonna have to see a lot of this for yourself, please. We start to see that the action here changes up, and there's a lot of great things to note. I love how the monster is a full circle from the game that 5 played earlier. I think with the 44-minute runtime, decisions like this really makes the episode seem a lot easier to digest. I love how the episode doesn't lean too much on the inexperience of Miko and 5, but rather their willingness to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks, or in this instance, defeat the enemy. I love how they occasionally bring back Mitch to incorporate the ticking clock aspect. However, there are things that do confuse me here as well, such as the wishy-washy, super selective way that their robot companion decides to help or fight. He only really gets involved when Miko was in trouble, not when Fives was in trouble, which, once again, a sign, whether intentional or not, that this is very Miko-centric in nature. They do end up defeating the monster, and we get to a point where I feel as though we could have gotten more of an emotional impact out of this, especially with the cop-out at the end.
If we wipe your precious gaming career, you've got nothing left to protect.
I know I went too far, but do not take this from me. It's what I love. It's who I am.
Me too.
Me too.
You have got to be kidding me! I'm not saying that they should wipe out his memory, but Mitch Williams is not like 5 and not like Miko. Mitch Williams enjoys gaming for the fame aspect, and even said it himself. He said if you take away his gaming status, you take away him as a person. He never said that he enjoyed gaming because it was fun. It's purely for the benefits. So to push this sappy, we're all gamers is so bull. I'm not sure if that was a creative or executive call, but no, I reject this notion. Anyway, I am glad that they skipped through the job building process, considering that in the series we essentially dive into that aspect all the time, and she does get vindicated, even though her parents' memory would be wiped right after, so yeah. We see adult Tulip from Infinity Train walking outside of the exposition shot of the Hanobi store, and we also get around to the final part, essentially saying that Miko and 5 are a part of the glitch text. I love the tiny shot of Mitch sweeping, not pleased with his job, and from here, it's the adventures of the duo learning on the job, fighting glitches, and knowing more about the lives around 5 and Miko. Are you excited? Well, that makes 2 of us. Nickelodeon doesn't want this show to be on its best foot, but they may listen to us if you do want it to be on its best foot. Watch glitch text. Spread the word. It's not over. Do you want to know more about Miko's sister spying on her new job? What about 5's new friends that he might have left behind? There's also the rest of Miko's family. What about any new powers gained over time? With the right amount of support, you and I can see more glitch texts. And this goes for every Nickelodeon show that I've covered. If you want to see those new Nickelodeon shows being covered, check out this playlist. Special thanks to the patrons of April. And until next time, take care. Alpha out.